What's going on YouTube? It's your boy G11 back at it again with another episode of the Homie Talk podcast. And today's story, I'm not gonna lie, is kind of egregious on multiple levels for many reasons, right? You have a situation where a grandmother was killed by her own daughter and her granddaughter helped try to hide the evidence. The reason why you're gonna want to stick around to find out, right? Before we actually get stuck into it, whenever we're dealing with the situation where someone has passed or someone's been murdered, I always like to give my condolences to the rest of the family who might be affected, because it's just a sad situation, and this also highlights that, sometimes your family members are the same ones that are going to do you in. That's just the reality of it, right? Sometimes family is just not who you share blood with. Sometimes people who aren't even related to are better than the people you share blood with. So that said, let's get stuck into the article. So this comes from lawandcrime.com and it's titled, "It's Horrifying. Dismemberment Murder Implicating Granddaughter After Victim Discovered Fraudulent Credit Card Use is Far More Gruesome Than Initially Known." So in this photo, you got Candace Craig on the left. So that is the daughter of the deceased, or potentially the murderer. On the right, you've got Celia Hardy. She is Miss Craig's daughter on the left. And then in the middle, you have Miss Margaret Craig. She was 71 years old at the time. The death of a grandmother in Maryland last month is far more gruesome than initially known, as evidenced by the charging documents in the murder case against the victim's own daughter. Margaret Craig, 71, was killed by unknown and maybe unknowable means on May 23rd, but there's evidence that a chainsaw and a barbecue grill were involved, and evidence of a motive, authorities in PG County say. Candace Craig, 44, stands accused of murder in the first and second degree over the slaying, which police believe was motivated by the elder Craig discovering and threatening to report her daughter for fraudulent use of her credit card. So I'll tell you what, nothing will break up a family relationship faster than money. Let me say it again. Nothing will break up a family relationship quicker than money. That's why personally I prefer to keep finances and family separate. That's just the safest, sure bet way to do things. If you have to loan something to somebody, because I used to be very kind-hearted and always want to help, but oftentimes family members will burn the fuck out of you and not even give two shits about it, right? So if you do have to loan someone money for whatever reason, make sure you do it legally. Get a promissory, just draw something up on paper to where they have a legal requirement, if you will. I can't think of the proper words right now, but you guys get what I'm saying. A legally binding contract to pay you back. Because if you just have that shit vocally, sometimes I act like it never happened. I'm telling you. That's neither here nor there. Let's get back into it. Detectives wrote, yep. So we'll scroll down. Those allegations against the younger Craig come by way of the defendant's own daughter, Celia Hardy, 19. Now let's think about this for a second. This lady, Candace Craig, one, she killed her own mother, but she cared so much about nobody but herself that she was willing to involve her own 19-year-old daughter in the scenario to try to help her cover up the evidence, potentially knowing they would get caught, right? She just didn't give a fuck about anybody but herself. That's crazy. That's wild. So not only are you throwing your life away, you throw your daughter's life away too. Okay, they just don't, they this is the mindset. The charging documents allege Hardy, who was charged with accessory after the fact, so this is the daughter, for both counts of murder against her mother. It says mother, I think that's the typo. It was supposed to say grandmother. Allegedly told police about the initial attack being fueled by those credit card fraud allegations. On the next day, Hardy allegedly continued. She came home and discovered her grandmother's remains in a blue bin in her bedroom. By this time, Candace Craig was allegedly able to enlist her daughter into helping her cover up the crime, and the two began to dismember the grandmother with a chainsaw. That's crazy. That's wild. Think about it. She's literally cutting up her own mother. And the granddaughter is cutting up her own grandmother. That's wild. That's wild to me. I don't think I'd have the guts to do it. Then the pair allegedly tried to burn her remains on a grill and a fire. Days later, a male relative began to wonder. He called 911 last Friday and said he had not communicated with Margaret Craig for several days and was worried for her welfare. Officers showed up to the house on Hill Road in Landover just after 1:30 p.m. and the missing woman's daughter answered the door. She allegedly allowed them inside the residence to conduct a search. When the officers entered the basement, they immediately smelled the odor of decomposition, police alleged in a weekend press release. So I reckon decomposition just smells like the most foulest thing you could ever hit, especially like when you're in that line of work. You're a police officer, and you know, I'm not saying in Maryland they have a lot of killings, but I reckon like if you're a police officer, you're going to come across one or two in your career field during your tenure, I should say, right? Hell, even in general, if you're just a normal person, that's just going to hit you because it's just not a normal smell. They said they smelled it right away. Upon entering the basement, officers immediately recognized the smell of putrefaction and observed blood and tissue on the floor near 3 white plastic trash bags. Officers observed in an open trash bag what appeared to be brain matter. Jesus. Margaret Craig's body was finally found, law enforcement alleged, cut into pieces, stuffed in trash bags in the basement of her own home. A knife was found on the basement floor. The initial search of the residence also turned up a chainsaw cover, cutting utensils, cleaning materials, and blood spattered throughout the basement where the bags of human remains were located. Later, after conducting a warrant-authorized search, police allegedly recovered several items said to be relevant to the case, including a chainsaw with human remains on it. How do you even know? You know, I'm just wondering, how'd they even know how to use the chainsaw? Cause like, it's crazy. Like cutting through a tree is like one thing, right? And they don't even look like the type that would do it. Cutting through a tree or wood is one thing, but cutting through flesh is a totally different type of feel. I would imagine like you're gonna get some type of resistance with that. I hate thinking about it. It's just it's pretty messed up that they essentially had a whole like arsenal of butchery, if you will, to dismember her up. Wow. Later, after conducting a warrant authorized search, so we read that, a witness also approached law enforcement at the scene of the crime and said that on May 27th, they saw the mother and daughter near a small fire in the brush behind the house, burning what they believed to be human remains. Police later located the burn site. So they weren't even sneaky about it. They just they tried to get rid of it right at the scene. The granddaughter allegedly waived her Miranda rights to implicate her mother in the crime. The mother, however, denied any involvement whatsoever. Of course. Selfish to the end. Holy shit. According to DC-based NBC affiliate WRC-TV, both Craig and Hardy denied the allegations against them during the Monday hearing. They are both ordered held without bond. To say it's disturbing is an understatement, PG County State Attorney Aisha Braveboy said at a press conference this week. It's horrifying. Prosecutors reportedly said the state of the victim's body will make it a challenge for an autopsy to determine exactly how she died. I mean, I reckon it is because she's in pieces. It's not like you're dealing with an entire human in one piece, right? Like if you just got shot or stabbed or something like that, right? You still have everything else there to kind of tell a story. And of course the wound itself tells a story. With dismemberment, not so easy, right? Everything's cut up, some stuff's burnt. I don't know. To me, this is just a really, really, really wild situation. To think that, you know, this whole thing started over an argument about fraudulent use of credit cards. So maybe the daughter was probably already wrong. Candace, this woman here, hang on. Candace was already wrong, most likely. She was probably doing some janky shit with the credit cards for real, for real. The grandmother probably got tired of it and she said, look, I'm fixing to turn you in. The daughter was so selfish that she decided to kill her own mother and enlist the aid of her own daughter to try to help cover up the evidence and then try to deny the whole thing. You can't make this shit up, man. You absolutely cannot make this up. I don't know, guys. You got a tragic situation here again. I think you really have to be careful who you deal with. Not even just those out on the streets, but again, your own family is can be your own downfall, is the lesson in this, right? Keep everything on the level and above board no matter what you're doing. When you're dealing with money relatives, get that shit documented. Get it documented and learn your lessons fast, right? Don't keep loaning them money, even if it's your kids, your mom, whatever, right? Sometimes you got to cut people off that don't need to be there. And it's just sad. You know, I reckon this was a pretty toxic family relationship. Just based on the little bit I read here, I can already tell this was pretty shitty. Again, condolences go out to the rest of the family, because now you have not just one person who's deceased, but now you have two other people whose lives are totally just ruined. 19 years old. The daughter was 19. She might have still had a chance to turn her shit around and get on track, right? But they hitting her with the accessory charge. She's pretty much done for. And that old crusty Candace Craig, man, I don't know what to say about that. That's all I got on this, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Link to this article that we covered today will be in the description. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace.